What's up, guys? This is James from Geekblog TV, and today I wanted to teach you guys a little bit about a useful program called Photoshop. Now, we've covered other programs that you can use in the past, like GIMP or Pixlr and things like that, but today we're just going to focus on Photoshop because that's what most people use. Let me turn on the screen share real quick, and you guys can see what exactly I'm working with here. I've picked out a couple of demo photos so that we could get started. This is Photoshop. I'm using Photoshop CS 5.5. Now it looks like it's really busy and there's a whole lot going on here, but that is not the case. It's actually pretty easy to use. And so I've picked a couple of demo photos today that we are going to use to just to demo some of the things that Photoshop does. These are all photos that I've taken, so don't worry about suing me for that. So here on the side, this bar right here is your toolbar. It's got all your tools and stuff right there. Up here, you're going to find your open documents. Up here, you're going to find menus. This bar right here will change depending on what tools you are using. On the right side right here, we have all these little panels. The one that I use the most is down here, the layers. You're not going to use these too much right here, all these other ones and stuff. So if you want to rearrange them, you can just pick it up and drag it to different parts, as far as like what you use the most and what you want to go where. So what I normally do whenever I start working on a document is to save a copy of the original. You see there's this little lock icon right here? Well, this means that you're not going to be able to delete this layer since it's the only one that's in the photo. To illustrate to you how I would go ahead and start, what I would do is I would drag this layer right here to the new layer button, and what it does is it creates a duplicate. So whatever I do to this layer, let me pick a color here. I'm just going to pick red, and this is my cat Spicy. Let's go ahead and give her a monocle. So I'm just going to drag around her eye like this. And my cat now has a semi-stylish monocle. So let's say that we don't like this one and we want to go to the other layer or see what the other layer looked like before we started messing with it. So we click this eye right here, and this toggles the visibility of that layer. Now whenever I click the eye on the layer beneath it, nothing happens because you can't see it. Well, you can also do transparent layers if you want to just work on transparent stuff. So this time, without dragging, just click the new layer button, and now we can pretty much write whatever we want, and it'll be on a transparent layer that goes on top of it. This is my cat Spicy, so I'm just going to write her name real quick with my ultimate laptop mouse penmanship right here. Alright, so let's say we don't like the positioning of where this is. Remember how this little monocle was drawn on the layer? Well, this time we can just grab the layer and move it around using this right here. This is it's like a little hand. It just grabs things. And you can move things around however you want. Let's say that the text isn't the right size. So we go to Edit, Transform, and then Scale. And I'm sure you guys can guess what that does. We can modify what the text looks like, and let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. And hit the check mark to solidify your changes, and that should get you going with a transparent layer. So to delete it, it's much the same as duplicating it. So I'm going to drag it over the trash can. I'm not too much focused on doing like these little funky illustrations and stuff like that on the back or on my cat's picture there. So let's do something that has a little bit more artistic application. A good thing to do is to balance out the colors and the tone and the contrast of your photo. And the way you can do it is by going to this image menu right here, and you can click auto tone, auto contrast, or auto color. I use these two the most right here. You can get different results depending on which one you use first. So let's give these a shot and see, what Photoshop can do to just right off the bat improve our pictures. All right, so clicking the auto contrast gave us a little bit more definition there. This eye right here got a little bit too dark, but I liked what happened on the rest of it. So I'm going to go to Edit, Undo Auto Contrast, I'm going to duplicate the layer, and I'm going to try the auto contrast again. But this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a eraser from right here, and then I'm going to go up to this menu that I told you about, and I'm going to select a fuzzy eraser that is about the right size to erase out the part of the eye from this layer that I don't like. So I've got one that's about the right size, and since it's a fuzzy edge, it should just go to the bottom layer here, and it should look right. So let's try it. Let's give it a click. All right, so everything else is balanced out. This eye has been corrected right here. We can merge all of these layers if you'd like. I do that with Control-Shift-E, but I think you can do it through the layers right here. You can do merge visible, and what this is going to do is it's going to merge all the layers. Now, an important thing to remember is that since this is now the bottom layer, there's a lock icon on it. So if you want to save where you are and move on from there, make a copy of it, and then we can get started with the rest of the color balance and things like that. I think this picture is, it's still lacking a little bit, so let me try auto tone. I don't know if I like the way that did it, so I'm just going to do undo auto tone, and I'm going to go in manually and show you how I'd normally do this. You go to image and then adjustments, and if you look to the right here, there's all these different settings that you can mess with. There's brightness and contrast, levels. What we're looking for right now is hue and saturation. Saturation color is in the actual photo there. You can drag around this little hue slider to change the hues of the color, or like change your reds to more blues and things like that. This helps if you have like white balancing issues and things like that. I typically don't mess with the hue much unless I'm using a cheap camera, but I'm just going to turn up the saturation just a little bit because I think it looks a little bit better with a little bit of color. Okay, so you see how our nose got a little bit pinker right there? I'm going to turn the lightness up a little bit just because I want it to be a little bit lighter, and then I'm going to hit OK. So we can flip back and forth. Always flip back and forth between your original. You see this one looks a little bit desaturated, a little bit flat, and then you open up this one and there's a lot more color, and you notice it particularly around here, around her coat, and then on her nose right there, and then off to the side. So I want to bring a little bit more focus to the face. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to enter quick mask mode by hitting Q. Okay? Now what quick mask mode is going to do is it's going to allow me to make a selection very easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the entire background with the quick mask, and I'm going to do that by holding my mouse down on this little box here that looks shaded. This is the gradient button. If you hold down your mouse on it, you can find the paint bucket tool. Now yours should be the paint bucket tool by default. I've used this already and moved things around a little bit. I'm going to click this little arrow right here to make it have the old school view right here of the tools. It's just a little bit easier for me, but you can use whichever one works better for you. Now, whenever you click fill, you're going to notice that the screen is going to turn this pink color. Well, that's kind of weird because we've got this black color picked right here. Well, this is the quick mask color. It's to remind you that you're in quick mask mode. So I'm going to take this eraser right here. I'm going to choose a different brush, and I'll make it kind of big and blocky because I want to select parts of her face and leave everything else not selected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the quick mask in the different areas. If you mess up, it's okay. You can just hit Control-Z. It doesn't have to be exact. And I'm just going to show you guys a quick little trick to make everything else pop and give it a little bit of definition. So I'm just going to select her face right here. And you see her whole face is whited out there. Make sure you get the whiskers in and everything. I don't know, it doesn't have to be exact. And I'm going to hit Q again to come out of quick mask mode. Now you see that her face is selected there now. Okay, so let me make a little duplicate of this layer just in case we mess this up. I'm going to go to select, and because I don't want there to be a harsh border all the way around her face, I'm going to go to select and then modify and then feather. Now, select is the menu to modify all your different selections and things like that, as you could have guessed, but I just want to be specific for you guys. So the modify part is going to modify the border and the contents of this, this selection that we've made. So I'm going to choose feather, which will lighten up the edges and not make it so harsh whenever we edit things around, around the border. So I'll put in 20, because that's about a good amount. And I'll hit quick mask again so you can see how that's changed the border. As you can see, the border is a lot softer now. So let's make sure that the outside is selected, because that's what we want to modify, and not the actual cat's face there. So I'm going to do select and then inverse, or shift control I. As you can see, the selection has changed, and whenever I hit quick mask, now the face is the only thing that's masked. So to bring the face into the focus a little bit more, I'd like to blur a little bit the background. My favorite blur to use is the Gaussian blur, or Gaussian blur, or however you choose to pronounce that. You get a nice little preview right here, and it'll also preview in the window. And if you want to see how a certain part looks, like these whiskers right here, you just click it, and it'll show you what it'll look like with that blur factored in. So let me zoom out a little bit on this preview, and I'm going to start messing with the settings right here just to see what kind of blur looks appropriate. Obviously, this part is a little bit too much blur right here. I just kind of want to give it a little bit of faux depth of field illusion there, so that it's, I don't know, it's kind of Instagrammy, but it works and I like it. So I'm going to hit OK right here. To let go of this control here, oh sorry, I accidentally clicked Q. Let me hit that again. To get rid of this selection right here, you hit Control D, or you can go to Select, Deselect Layers, and that does the same thing. So you can see that face comes out a little bit, it's popping a little bit. Let's see what the original, or the semi-original, looks like. And you can see it's a lot more dull, and things aren't looking so great on the original, so we know that we're on the right track. So you know how to touch up a kitty cat's face there, so what about saving it? What if you want to show your friends? So let's hit Control-Shift-E to save all those layers, or to merge them. Actually, you know what? Let's hit Control-Z, undo that. Leave all the layers just how they are, and you can save the picture with all the layers intact if you go to Save As. Now, whenever you go to Save As, you can save it as a PSD file. This PSD file is a Photoshop document. And what that does is it keeps all these layers intact, and any special doodads that you've done to it, it keeps that intact. But if you want to save it as a JPEG or a PNG, which is pretty much like the new standard now as far as the internet goes, you can click on Format right here. And there's all types of different formats. Now, you're not going to use too many of these. You might use the CompuServe GIF. You might use JPEG, you might use PDF, and you might use PNG. As far as the rest of these, I don't use them that much, so we're not going to really focus on that. Let's save it as a PNG, and we'll go through the process a little bit. So I'm going to hit Save, and it's asking if we want interlacing. Usually I click No, because interlacing can make a photo look a little bit dingy. So let's hit OK. And I believe it's going to ask us one more thing, like if we want to flatten all the layers or something like that. I can't remember. It's going to take a second, though. We're working with some pretty high-res images here, so I apologize in advance for not scaling them down for you guys. I should have done that now that I think of it, just to make things a little bit faster. Oh, also, one thing that's important to think about is I was wondering why this was taking so long to save. And you'll notice that we made 3 different copies, and we've added a bunch of changes and stuff. Well, if you look down here, you can see that the document has swelled up to 109.4 megabytes. Once we save this as a PNG, that's going to change a lot. It's only because this is a very high-res photo, and we've made several copies of it. So much we've in effect created like a 50 or 60 something megapixel photo there, so it's gonna understandably take a minute to save it. Usually, whenever Photoshop is performing a long operation like this, let's say that you're trying to sharpen a photo that's really blurry and your computer's really working and you really need to do something else and you need to get your CPU let go by Photoshop. What you can do is hold down Escape, and usually it will abort whatever operations it is doing. I can hit Escape right now. Of course, I've never done it while saving something, so it's risking crashing it, but I kind of need to get on with the show. So, well, I just hit Escape and nothing's happening, so I guess I'm going to have to wait it out. It's just my luck that something like this happens, but whatever. Anyway, I'm going to take it off the screen share for a second and tell you guys a little bit about what I've been doing lately. Let's see, I've been working on a couple of projects. I've been working on getting the new version of Jambuntu out there. Been trying to focus on the live classes a lot. I don't know, I like teaching you guys about stuff. I think that it's a better format because you guys can interact with me while I'm working on something, and that usually works out pretty well. So I'm killing Photoshop in the background right here. Let me get started with another copy of it. You know, get it running. I'll show you guys what it looks like whenever we run it here. Hang on, let me screen share again. All right. So let's go to Photoshop 64-bit. All right, everything is fired up. The windows are kind of jumbled up because that's usually the way I use them. Let me reset my workspace right here. All right, and everything is back to the way it was whenever I got started earlier today. So, to go back to my demo photos, let's find here, these work. All right, so you can just drag photos over from your collection there, and it'll automatically import them and put them on your screen. And right away I'm noticing that one of mine is not aligned correctly, or it's not rotated the way that I'd like it to be. So we can change that pretty easily. These are some photos that I took at this little spot. It's under a bridge where I go and work on my computer. I don't know. That's just what. It's just a place where I like to work. Okay, so this one right here. Everything, whenever it's in portrait view, just kind of looks kind of funky to me. I'm gonna use this selector tool right here. It's the upper left tool in your box. You can hold it down and you can make it into a circle selector, but today we're going to use a rectangle selector. Now, so that it fits on everybody's computer screen, I want it to be in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So up to this changing menu up here. I call it the Properties menu. I'm going to go to Style, and then under Style you have Normal, Fixed Ratio, or Fixed Size. I'm sure you can guess what this does. So I'm going to go to Fixed Ratio, and you can see that I've put 16 in the width and 9 in the height. So this means that it'll make any selection as long as it is 16:9, which is the resolution for most laptops these days. So I kind of want this little vanishing point to be in the center of the photo. So I've made my selection here, and I'm going to go to Edit, Copy. Okay. Now let's say I want to make another image, but with just this portion right here. We'll go to New, and it will already have filled in right here the measurements of the selection that I just made. So you can see that it's 16:9. Not bad. So hit OK. And since you already have a copy of that photo in the clipboard, just go to Edit, Paste. Now that it's pasted, everything looks good. It's in the right ratio. It looks good for a background wallpaper there. But some of these colors look a little bit I don't know, not up to par. So let's jump into the adjustments here. This whole menu right here will really save you for those of you, I don't know, I might be generalizing you here, but girls who like to make your profile photo great and perfect. This menu right here is going to be your best friend as far as shadows, highlights, toning, all that good stuff. Let me make sure I'm screen capping and we can get right back to this. Okay, I'm screen capping. That's good. Go to Image, Adjustments, and let's mess with the reds. I want the reds to be a little bit more. So we're going to go to the Hue and Saturation, go to the reds. I'm going to make the reds a little bit more saturated because I really want that rust to pop. So my little trick there is I always turn it up until it looks like too much, and then I turn it down a little bit. Alright, so you see this rust has really come out. And if you hit Control-Z a few times, you can flip back and forth to see what it looks like. If you want to zoom in on a particular area, or if you just want the image to take up all of the space that it can on the screen, some nifty shortcuts are Control plus, Control minus, and Control 0. Control plus zooms in, okay? Control minus zooms out, and Control 0 makes the image exactly as big as your workspace is. And that's usually the best option. Let's see. What else can we do here? I think we could do with a little bit of sharpening. So we're going to go to Filter, Sharpen, and then Sharpen Edges. And like I said, it's going to take a minute. And there it goes. Everything's a little bit sharper. If you want to make things look a little bit more, I don't know how to explain this, like mystical, let's duplicate this layer right here. And see, we have two layers now. They're both the exact same. The top one, we're going to give it a little bit of a blur. This is going to give the effect of whenever somebody's taking a photo and they kind of fog up the lens real quick before they take the photo, and it makes everything look like I don't know, like a dream sequence or something like that. Sometimes you can also do this to obscure any type of what do you call it, artifacts in the photo. If you'll notice, since we didn't downscale this photo at all, so there's a few artifacts in there as far as quality. So this is blurred. We're going to hit OK, and then we're going to change the opacity here. The opacity, as you could probably imagine, is how transparent that layer is. So we slowly start moving it down. Move it down to about 50%, and you'll notice that things have like it kind of looks like that game Oblivion. If you guys have ever played that, everything kind of has like little foggy edges around it. And let me see if I can zoom in here without losing too much of the quality. But you can see this tree right here. If I get rid of this, okay, you see how it's just kind of blah, and then I put the blur back on over it. It looks kind of cool. I don't know. It looks like a little dream sequence in a show there. So we've got our wallpaper, but obviously this is way too big to use for a wallpaper. So real quick, what we can do, excuse me, sorry. What you can do is you can go down to Image, and then Image Size or Canvas Size. Now the canvas size, you can choose at what part you want the image to expand from. But let's say that we want a bunch of space on the bottom. Let's say I need to put like an artist name or something like that on the bottom of this. So I can tell it to add 1 inch to the height of the canvas, and then it'll create this little bit of space at the bottom of the canvas for me to. So if this is indicative of what the computer thinks is 1 inch, then this is definitely too big for a wallpaper. So I'm going to hit Control-Z. Go back to the image menu, go to image size, and my resolution is it's 1366 by 768. It's a WXGA screen. So it says constrained proportions right here, so no matter what you type in right here, it's going to fill in the appropriate ratio down here so that you're not left guessing as far as what size you need things to be. You can also change your measurement down here between percent and pixels. Let's say I just want to make this photo 50% less. Then it's going to be 50-50 right there, and it'll automatically scale it down 50%. Now, that's not bad, but it's still not the right size for our wallpaper. So I'm going to hit Control-Z to undo what we just did. Go back to Image, hit Image Size, and we're going to type in the exact number of pixels, 1366, and sometimes it'll fudge one pixel there or not, but 769 is fine with me. 1366 by 769, that'll fit my desktop just fine. I'm going to hit OK. And whenever you go from high quality, like I have right here, I took this picture originally, I think at 20, might have been 30 megapixels, but it was pretty large. Whenever you downsize from a large photo, your details and artifacts in the photo, things that might have marred the quality of the photo, seem a lot less significant. Whenever you downscale things, they just look better. For example, whenever I was doing these fractals right here, here's a good example of color correction and changing the scale of things. I'm just going to drag this over. Oh, one thing that I need to show you guys. Let's say that I want to make this a layer of this photo that we're working on. I can drag it into the workspace that we're working on right here, and it should pop up as a layer. Yeah, here we go. It popped up as a layer in the photo that we're working on. That's not quite what we're looking for, so we're going to get out of this one. We're going to get out of this one. We've made our wallpaper, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not going to save it. I'm not going to save that one. And let's see if I can drag it to this top toolbar, if that will maybe open it up in its own document. There we go. Yeah, so the little open tabs toolbar right there, just drag the photo on top of it, and then it'll create the new one. Okay, so as you can see here, if you go in, let's zoom this up to 100% so you can see the actual quality of what this 3D render looks like. If you've seen our video on making 3D fractals before, this is what we ended up making in the video. It's like this Fifth Element type city. What this is it's a visual representation of a mathematical equation of something called a fractal. Well, these days people are used to anti-aliasing and things like that, and what that means is making all these little borders very nice, slightly blurry but still sharp. Well, Photoshop does this automatically. So if we downscaled this, it looks like 40% would actually do it. You can notice that these screens, or these edges, look a lot more sharp. They look better, and it's great. So after a little bit of work, what I ended up with was this picture right here. So you can see that just with the small amount of changes, things look a lot better. We did a little bit of anti-aliasing by modifying the size of the photo. We downscaled it a little bit. It looks nice. You can see there's a lot more blue in here in between. This is because of the color correction. You can just see how much it pops. This right here just looks like there's like a fog of over it almost. And then whenever you go to this one, it just looks so much better. So we've covered a lot of the touching up photos and things like that. I don't think that there's too much as far as the basics goes, so I just want to go over some of these tools real quick. They're not going to really have very much practical application as far as what we're doing here, but they might have useful, they might be useful tools in your project. One that's great is the crop tool right here. Okay, so I'm gonna let's say before, you know how we had to select a layer, copy it, then create a new document, and then put it in the document. Let's say that we want to just crop it to 16 by 9. Well, we can do that. We do 16 by 9. Hopefully, hopefully it'll scale. There we go. Okay, so we can crop it, and it grays out the outside of where we cropped, so we can see what's going to be gone whenever we end up finalizing the picture. So if you'd like, you can just move it around. It snaps to the edges, which is something that I also like. You can also change them like this. You can drag it out, but it's all going to be to scale. So that's great. Let's hit OK, and it should cut out all this garbage right here and put it in a document. So there we go. It cropped everything just right. I think the bridge looks almost a little bit lopsided. So what you can also do is rotate. Let me go back to my little arrow key here. Oh, okay, it's not letting me rotate because this is a locked layer. So I'm going to duplicate that layer and then go back here, and ta-da, my transform menu is back. So I can go to rotate, and then you see how my mouse pointer icon turns into little arrows that look like a rotate thing? Well, you can grab it and you can rotate it however you want. So just rotate it until everything looks right. Okay, and I think that looks right now. So I can hit the check mark right there, and it'll transform everything so that it's rotated properly. What I can do now to fix these edges is I can scale it up a little bit. I'm holding down Shift right now. You'll notice no matter where I drag, it's keeping everything in scale. If I let go of Shift, everything stretches out, and it'll start just stretching out however it wants to go. But since I want to keep the scale and I just want to make it fill the screen, I'm just going to drag it out until it's big enough for the entire screen, and then hit Enter, and we'll see how it looks. All right, nice and centered. Hit the check mark. It's transforming. Voila, everything looks nice. Well, let's say that you're one of those people that has a terrible iPhone and it flips everything around backwards. Well, what you can do is you can go to Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal, and it flips everything back around the correct way. You'll notice that this is actually the correct way that this area is supposed to look, and you probably don't know that because you don't hang out under a bridge like a bridge troll. But that's okay. That's okay. With these new Photoshop skills, you will be perfectly equipped in no time. So this little magic wand right here, you can use this to go around and select different colored parts of the photo. Here, it's selected everything within 10 pixels of the color of what I just clicked, no matter whether it's touching or not. So we click contiguous, and what contiguous does is it's only similar colors that are touching. So this is good if you want to, like, I don't know, like select a zit on your profile photo and then get rid of it or something like that. So next up, if you want to choose a color, you choose this little dropper right here. And the dropper, you can just hover over different parts of your photo there. Let's say that you really like how this rust color looks. You can go over it and just click it, and you can select that rust color. So you can get a lot of nice, like little mocha colors and things like that with rust. You can get nice little color schemes also from photos taken. Here is the spot healing tool, the spot healing brush, whatever you want to call it. This is good right here for, like it says, removing red eye, removing blemishes, things like that. I don't really have a photo with any blemishes on it that I can retouch. I spent a lot of time looking on Google Images only to realize that my video will get demonetized if I use somebody else's content, so I can't do that. Here's the brush. We have all these different types of brushes down here, so you can choose all these different brush heads. As you can see, I've created a couple of brushes, like this one right here is, let's see. See, you can just go around and click, or you can drag and make it look however you want. I don't know. It's cool. It has its uses. There's a lot more artistic ways to use it, though. Let's see. Let's keep it moving here. We've got the stamp tool. That's cool. Whatever. Eraser tool, you've seen that. This is the gradient tool. The gradient tool is pretty cool. Let's go up here to the properties menu. You can choose all these different gradients here, or you can create your own gradients. So just for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to choose this black and white gradient. And we'll scroll across the screen like this. And let me make sure I'm still screen capping. I have a bad habit of not screen capping. All right, cool. Everything's working. All right. Back to Photoshop. It has created the gradient. I'm going to hit Control-Z so that you can see that one more time. Let me zoom out a little bit. All right, so basically wherever you start dragging is where the color is going to start fading. So if I stop dragging here, that's where the fade is going to stop. You can do as many of them as you want. You can do them over each other. It doesn't matter. You can change the colors even. So a cool thing to do with gradients is if you want to add a bit of a dramatic quality to your photo, you can add a gradient like so, and then do something like multiply, which means only let the black overlay the other color and let all the light elements be transparent. So you hit multiply, and it almost gives you the impression that you're in the shade under this bridge. You see, I can toggle it on and off. You can also do things like screen, which is it's the alternate or the opposite of multiply. Screen makes only the white show up. So you see here, it's like a hazy morning or something like that. I don't know. I don't know what you would use that for, but there's lots of different ones in there. You can just select one and then start tapping downward, and it'll go through all the different blending modes. That's what these are actually called, are blending modes. This is one of my favorite, color dodge, also color burn. Color burn is it's pretty cool. You can use it to make like black eyes on people's photos and things like that. I don't know, just it's fun to mess with. There's a lot of different settings on there that you can mess with. Just remember that they all have their own practical use. All this other stuff really is more for pro users. So don't really get too messed up if you don't use those that much. So I'm going to scrap that layer. I'm going to create another one, and I can show you what these tools do. This one right here, the drop, is the blur tool. Now the way I'm getting the secondary menu is I'm holding down the mouse to click on these. So the blur tool, let's see, I'll make it a little bit bigger, and I want its strength to be 100% so you can see it right away. You can select these little areas that you want to blur, and you just click and drag over them. It takes a second though. Like the selective blurring of certain areas, it's a little CPU intensive. Let me zoom in so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. See how this spot is all blurry and the rest of it is not? Well, that's how the blur tool works. Let's try the sharpen tool. Contrary to what you might think, you can't blur something and then go right back over it. With the sharpening tool, I mean, you can, it just starts to look garbage. And it's just, I don't know, it's poor form. Don't blur something just to sharpen it, because you'll get all these little jaggies on there, and as a rule I use the sharpening tool last, because the sharpening tool can actually add artifacts and things that you don't want in the photo. So you can see it's starting to finish up with the sharpening right here. The CPU is working pretty hard and I feel so bad for it. But let's use a smudge tool. This one's good for obscuring information on screenshot like that. If you've ever been on Reddit, you notice people their personal information blurred out. This is what they'll use as the smudge tool. As you can see, my CPU is struggling here right now. My laptop's been overheating lately, so I have to turn it on power saver mode to get it to work correctly. Believe it or not, which is terrible. But you can see all this is just gradually melting across my screen. It normally doesn't do it like that, but it's a cool little trippy effect, whatever. So we have our dodge tool, our burn tool, and our sponge tool here. Dodge kind of lightens up the color. You can use this to brighten up elements of your photo that are abnormally dark, like this little area at the end of this tunnel here. Sometimes it can add a little bit more definition up to a certain extent, but it can add artifacts. This is pretty much increasing lightness and increasing saturation to a certain extent. So if you want to do the opposite, you can use the burn tool. The burn tool is good for making like zombies, like bruises and parts like black eyes and stuff like that. And you see if I'm coloring in this area, things start to get darker. You can create shadows and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. It can give things a little bit too much contrast though, which I do find a little bit off-putting. So, as you can probably guess, the sponge tool, it sops up all the colors. Even the tool right here says desaturate. You can make it saturate or desaturate. Desaturate, if you'll remember the beginning, is color. Saturation is color. Like doing this right now is desaturating. It's taking away the color. So we don't really want that. Let's get rid of this layer. Go back to the original. Everything looks so good. Control 0. And I guess I'll set this as my desktop, guys. Let's see, merge all the layers with Control-Shift-E, then Control-Shift-L to do auto color, then Control-Alt-Shift-L for auto contrast, and everything looks really nice. I like it a little bit. If it's a picture like this, sometimes I'll just do a little bit of blur right there, just one time. And it just kind of gives everything a little bit softer edges. So guys, I hope I haven't rambled too much, and I hope you guys got a little bit better acquainted with Photoshop. And yeah, just let me know if you have any questions. I've been changing grades and whatnot with this ever since I was a kid, so if you need any help with any Photoshop work, or if you need any design work or anything like that done, I'd be glad to help you guys. So if you liked the video, be sure to share, like, and subscribe. Come back and see me next time. And yeah, you guys keep it gangster, keep a lean in your step, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.